Hey, we're back. Got another weekly report on the COVID stuff, small business, and just talking about impact. As you see, got the Hawaiian on today. That must mean things are getting better now that I'm relaxing a little bit and stuff like that. No, things are going good. So there was a big relief this week when Congress and the president, I think yesterday, signed the PPP, the changes to the PPP. So it makes it really easy. It makes it real easy for us now to get forgiveness done. I think the labor you can spend 60% on labor. We're going to spend about 85%, which was part of the previous guidelines was 75. So we set up on that. So it'll be pretty easy for us because we're for forgiveness. We'll just turn in payroll and rent. That's it. So little documentation we'll need, and that really simplified some things. Plus, they extended the time frame, so I don't have to move. I was going to move one of my payrolls from Friday to Monday and have our accountant just expedite payroll, just so I can get it in that 8 weeks. And it got a little confusing because they said, well, you can extend it for yeah. It doesn't matter. You can look at my other videos to see that. So that's really good news for us. So the 117,500 we'll be able to um, get forgiven, and that's really good because it was a lifesaver. I mean, going back, if I would go back and look and say, okay, if we were able to reflect back, if we were able to open up May 1st, how would we do that if we didn't have the PPP money? And because we'd already exhausted $60,000+ of our own, we weren't getting paid. It'd be tough because what would happen is we would probably expend. You'd have the unknown of sales, and we would have to probably expend another $40,000 to $50,000 for us just to open, because we'd have some payroll stuff, and sales would fall in behind that, and it would put a real stress. We would be able to. I have high confidence we'd be able to make it, but it would really, really put stress on the business. And if you had any other bump in the road, that would might just do it. So it's really good to see that this is happening. So that's good to know. And there's really nothing to talk about on the idle front. I've been making some notes on going back through my videos a little bit, trying to make some notes on some of the good and bad that's happened. I was reading something last night about idle, talking about how your taxes, your personal tax, your business tax, or something may be impacted by this. So I got to do a little more research on that. It's another thing. It's like, okay, so yeah, you get this money, that's fine, and then it's like, well, now you're taxed on it. Okay, well, so if you get $100,000 and then they tax you 20% or 30% on it, you really don't get that. So so I'll have to go back and probably talk to our accountant about the PPP because I thought there was some stuff in legislation that accounted for that. And then the idle, I need to go look at that article and read it actually, and see what kind of impact there is for the idle stuff. And it turns out that it's a taxable event. Um, I may think about paying it back early before the 12 months. We'll see. Okay, so with that, let's get into what I really want to touch on this Saturday morning. I'm going to be heading down to Luther, Iowa, here in a little bit, about noon. We got the Battle of Luther today. Some friends of mine and stuff are kind of World War II kind of history buffs, and so we're getting together to watch. Well, it's the anniversary of D-Day today, so we're getting together today to watch, smoke some or cook some meat, eat, and watch a bunch of different war movies. So friend Tim, has picked out a bunch of different movies for us to watch. I know it sounds nerdy, but it is what it is, right? So we're gonna have a good time today. Amy's heading down to Des Moines to go shopping. So see, life's getting normal. So okay, so let's kind of touch the meat of it. Um, Start with the Ankeny. Getting some numbers here. Show you how recovery's going. So I don't like taking just 5 days of a period and start to do comparisons, but I thought I'd look at just June 1st through the 5th, which was yesterday, the 5th, and just kind of see how the first 5 days of June are doing compared to last year. Ankeny is. Let me look. I think I got my numbers screwed around here. Yeah. Okay. So Ankeny sales for the first 5 days is up 50% over the first 5 days of June last year. If that if that keeps going for the month, that'd be great. I doubt that, but that's a really good start to the month. With that, in 2019, we had 181 register rings during that time, and this year we had 197 register rings in the first 5 days in Ankeny. So that's really good, and sold more than 400 more items were sold during that same time period, and our average sale was up $9 per transaction. So that's really powerful. That means people are getting out. Way to go, Ankeny. People that shop there. That's really good to see. And that's also a store that has only been open 3 or 4 years, and that just shows that people are still discovering it, I believe, and so on. So we're pumping a little advertising where our advertising is starting back up. So we're probably pumping about $30-$40 a week into online ads there. Sorry, I got like an eyelash or something in my eye. Okay, so now let's move over to all right, so let's go look at Duckworth Ames. So Duckworth Ames for the first 5 days of June is up, good sign, up 12% over the first 5 days of June in 2019. Again, that's a good way to go. Way to go, Ames. People are giving it back to town and going shopping. Let's look at, again, our number of sales. So yeah, I'm looking at these numbers live, so you get to see my reaction. Look at these numbers, like, oh, sales are up, right? And then we look, and it's like, oh, this year we did 268 register rings in the first 5 days of June. Last year we did 353 register rings, which means our register rings are down by almost 100. So we're talking 25%. So we have 25% less people buying at the store. Now their average ticket sale is $10 higher, so that makes up the difference. So that's a little discouraging for Ames. So, but I would think that would mean, just taking this is my first gut instinct of what that means. I have to go dig into this a little more. Is that people are still staying home right down there. So Ankeny may have a little more discovery going on. Maybe people are a little more anxious because they're in Polk County to get out. Ames, it shows that either people aren't coming in. Ames store draws from basically Marshalltown to Carroll, with a bubble that goes north toward Fort Dodge and that half circle. And maybe people aren't venturing, as many people aren't venturing out yet. But looking at these other numbers again, we actually sold this year 100 more items than we did last year at that same time. So people are buying more in quantity. That's probably because, kids are growing out of things and they're coming down and they're getting a large amount of stuff. So that's just that's only for the first 5 days of June. What I've learned as a business owner, I hardly ever want to look at a week or a day. I always want to look at least months or quarters, and I prefer looking at quarters to look at trends. But that's encouraging. Sales are up. That means that we can get back to similar and normal scheduling at some of these stores. But with the volume of people coming in down, you may not need as many staff because you're not running as many registering. So it gets a little weird sometimes. All right, now let's go to the loft. So I mentioned last time the loft was still struggling in the adult. I should say struggle. That's a bad word. Is still underperforming where we thought it would be compared to Duckworth. So the loft is still running, the first 5 days is running 65% of what it was last year. So we're doing 65% of the revenue as last year, and that's discouraging. That still tells me that adults aren't getting out and buying clothes yet. But what was encouraging was yesterday, Friday, had a fabulous Friday. So the one day of the week, so maybe things are starting to roll up. So if we look at the number of sales compared, So we're running about 60%. We had 324 register rings the first 5 days of June last year. This year we have had 190. And our average ticket is up $3 this year over last year. So it's really about even. That, to me, that says that people just aren't buying. Now, one thing I don't have in these numbers, because I have to run another report, which I didn't do, is this is not including online sales. Online sales have still been actually pretty strong, which just surprised me. There's still people that are buying online and want to pick it up or have it shipped to them. So I would say at the loft anyway, based on online sales, let me just run a online sales report just for this time. So I got two machines going. I got my Chromebook here, and then so if I look at online sales for the loft, I guess there are only two online sales. Duckworth had quite a few in the last 5 days. So that would not move the needle very much on what we have for online sales, but at least it's happening. So loft online sales are actually pretty good, even though we've only had a couple this week. But Duckworth had been really strong. So since Ankeny is up 50% over last year and Ames is up 12% in sales, I put in the number of online sales for them. That pushes that number up some. So anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. These do get kind of long sometimes, but if you really want to get into the numbers, and then, as a business owner, if you do watch this whole thing, go take a look at your numbers and see where you're at. If you have systems that can give you like the number of register rings, number of returns, items sold, cost per ticket or per register ring, then go from there and take a look at it. So encourage all you do that, kind of trend out in your mind where things have been and where things are going. Okay, with that, probably do another one next weekend, unless some major event thing comes up. We'll probably just run through the recovery numbers again. So now we're getting to the point of recovery. So I probably won't really talk much about idle next week. I'll talk a little bit about PPP because I'm going to do the forgiveness at about the 8-9 week point after I do that last payroll, and then I'm going to get that on my hair. So I'll be able to touch on that, how that process works, how that works with the bank, and provide any guidance on that. So again, you haven't got a PPP loan and you've just opened up and stuff, there's still money available. So I encourage you to get that done as a small business. I think that's been whoever came up with the concept. I thought, they should get an award. I don't know who it was in Congress, or if it was Mnuchin or the president or vice president. I just don't know who it is. Whoever did come up with it, or a group of people came up with it, I think that they should get kudos for this. Even though it was bumpy at the start, it's turned out, I think, for a lot of businesses that get this, it turned out to be a lifesaver. So with that, we'll catch you all later.